You are now listening to the Insight Fantasy Sports Podcast.
Welcome all and welcome in. We are back. It's the Insight NFL show. I'm Mullin, joined by Maverick. You know, it's always good having a little duo show as we close out a week. But week two, what a week it was. Glad that that one is finished and over with. Already looking forward to week three. On tonight's show, we'll be recapping the final two games of the week that played today. Tampa Bay versus Houston and the Chargers versus the Raiders. And then also going into the wire as we look forward to week three. But Mav, week two, mate. What an absolute disaster. How are you feeling after coming out of that carnage?
Yeah, it kicked my ass this week, week two. Yeah, big time. I only won 4 leagues, I think it was, out of the 9 that I'm in. So I couldn't even get over 50% this week. But yeah, and some of those leagues, some big casualties to fall with those losses as well. So look, you can't win them all. Some you can't even win at all. Not even a game. But yeah, it's looking like going to be a tough season. Injuries are a part of the game. You know, we see it every year. Big players go down every year. You just got to hope they're not yours.
Yeah, that is for sure. And speaking of winning weeks in leagues this week, I thought I was smooth sailing in most of my leagues. I had these final 2 games today. I think I was at 70% in a couple of them, and yeah, just lost. Just the games today to close it out was weird as hell. We were chatting about it beforehand. Yeah, just a strange one all the ball, but we will get into that week 2 recap. But we will jump into a little bit of injuries before we dive in. We've got some updates and whatnot, so let's jump into injury updates. Awesome. To start off our injuries, and we did touch this on last night's Supercoach show. If you didn't catch that one, the link is in the video description below. Joe Burrow, it has been confirmed, worst case scenario that could have happened. His grade 3 turf toe injury is going to require surgery. And I heard a little stat this morning, not a single quarterback that has gotten this surgery on their grade 3 turf toe mid-season has returned during that season. So everything is pointing towards Joe Burrow. He's done for the year. They'll look into 2026, which is just devastating because he and the Bengals hold so much fantasy value. With this news, Mav, how are you looking at the Bengals? Are you fading a couple of players? Are you still on Jamar? What's your outlook as we look forward?
You probably can't fade those players too much. I mean, look, T. Higgins definitely loses a lot of value. But, you know, Jamar Chase and stuff like that, or Jamar Chase, should I say, really, is probably the only player that is good enough to play with any QB on the field. So I think he'll be okay. Yeah, sure, he won't be Jamar Chase of what we know him to be, but, you know, he still holds some fantasy value and he'll still chin at some good scores along the way, I think. So that I'm not too concerned about that too much. But Chase Brown, T. Higgins, and that's pretty much offense anyway, but they'll take a massive hit. Even that knock on Joe Burrow, it looked so didn't look much in that play. I don't know, he didn't get his foot crunched or anything like that. It was just a really weird knock that sort of happened and suddenly came out with a grade 3 turf toe. So unlucky. It could be one of those years of turf toes you don't see them very often in NFL, and we've had 2 in 2 weeks. So who's next?
Hopefully nobody of worthy note. If it's Spencer Rattler, so be it. But yeah, that Joe Burrow injury, you're really hoping, the way I'm kind of projecting, especially in dynasty leagues, is Bengals, if they kind of just give up on this year, drop it down, and hopefully spend a high draft pick on building that offensive line. Because, yeah, that line is just terrible that Joe Burrow's had to deal with. And they've got all these weapons, but they just can't keep their number one asset healthy. And I'm with you, Mav. Chase Brown, I think he takes a big hit, especially in half PPR leagues. If there's PPR, he might be all right if he sees some more check down work with the backup QB that they have in Jake Browning. But yeah, it's going to be one to watch.
He's been the worst running back so far in efficiency, yards per carry in the league so far, out of all starting running backs. So that's a huge concern, knowing that his starting quarterback isn't there to bail him out on small little dump offs or something like that. So he's actually going to have to work for his scores, and so far it hasn't worked out too well. So hopefully he can get it going. But I'm not really too interested myself.
Yeah, it's gonna be a tough one to watch it play out. Moving on to the next guy, I'll loop these two in together. They're both from the Minnesota Vikings. Running back Aaron Jones, hamstring injury. He's out for week 3. Could be longer. We will have to wait and see what more news comes out on that one, but he'll definitely miss. And also JJ McCarthy suffered a high ankle sprain during their loss to the Falcons yesterday. Expected to miss 2 to 4 weeks. Usual timeline for a high ankle is in the middle of that 3-week point. So we're going to see a new look Minnesota Vikings without JJ. Hopefully for the better, at least for the next couple of weeks. JJ has not been looking too hot, so it probably will be Carson Wentz stepping into that starting quarterback role, and then also Jordan Mason running back for the Vikings. He'll get the line share with Aaron Jones out. What are your thoughts on this duo here for the Minnesota Vikings, Mav?
I mean, I really like Jordan Mason coming into this year. I didn't actually get to draft him anywhere, to be honest, in any league, which is a shame. But I really, really like him. Now he's got the opportunity to carve out a role of being the feature back for how long is it? 3-4 weeks, maybe, something like that. Maybe, who knows? But the opportunity for him to flourish is really there. We saw it last year when he did at San Fran. So I really like the opportunity that's in front of him. In terms of JJ McCarthy, I'm sort of glad to see the back of him at this point, to be honest. And you would be too if you own Justin Jefferson or any of the pass catchers. Hawkinson's another one. Look, I don't preach on Carson Wentz being a good football player, but at this point he's got to be an upgrade over what McCarthy's been able to bring, which has been very minimal, if I'm being honest. It's been 1 quarter of dominance against the Bears defense, who just gave up or tired, but gave up. That was weak. But yeah, no, it's going to be an upgrade, I think. How much of an upgrade is going to be in question, but I think at least it's going to be an upgrade nonetheless. So excited to see how that turns out, even though Carson Wentz is pretty dog shit himself.
Yeah, Wentz. It's sad to think that we're looking forward to seeing Carson Wentz start, but just given what we've been dealt with JJ McCarthy, we're hoping for definitely more production in Justin Jefferson. If he didn't catch a touch, I think he caught a touchdown in yesterday's game. Oh no, he didn't. Maybe not. Would have been the week before.
Yeah, before he did.
But yeah, Justin Jefferson 3 for 81, and one of them was a 50-yard bomb. So he would have had that really bailed him out. But even still, 11 odd points in full PPR, which for him, who was expected a top 3 wide receiver, it's terrible to see. So if Carson Wentz, I'd imagine they'll probably be playing from behind a little bit more, especially with Aaron Jones out. So hopefully leads to a bit more garbage time and a bit more love for the receivers. And also Jordan Addison will be back after this week as well. So that'll be one to watch out for with that offense as a whole. And yeah, Jordan Mason, I'm surprised they didn't get him to run the ball more against the Falcons. He was probably the best looking part of their team. So yeah, just strange one. Hopefully he can kind of unlock once he has more of an opportunity this week and we see a bit more of him with Aaron Jones expected to miss a couple of weeks. The last one, Mav, before we dive into the final 2 games of week 2 recap, Jaden Daniels, just wanted to keep an eye on. There's nothing confirmed. He's still expected to play, but he did sustain a knee injury and he's dealing with that. So, I mean, I'd hate to think what the Commanders look like without Jaden Daniels. He's definitely been carrying their team the past couple of weeks, even though they lost this week, of course. But nobody else has really looked that good. Their running game is definitely shot. I'm sure we'll be talking about a couple of guys in their running back room later on when we get to the waivers. But how are you feeling about Jaden Daniels? Are you panicking or you're not too stressed?
Well, there's been very little information that's come out of him missing. So that's always good news. Look, he's banged up. He's probably going to be banged up for the remainder of the year. No one's going to be healthy at this point. So, it's been already a bit of they've probably been playing for about 6-7 weeks already so far in terms of training camps, and probably even longer actually, probably closer to 2.5 months. So, yeah, look, I'm not really too concerned. There's no structural damage. So that's always a positive thing. So it's just a bit more of a knock, I suppose, and he'll be okay. He'll be right. It might limit him on the ground a little bit, but yeah, as long as he doesn't see Green Bay again, he should be okay.
Yeah, Green Bay is scary. Micah Parsons, oh God, I'd definitely be running the other way. And it would not matter because I'm very slow. But yeah, Jane Daniels, I think, yeah, with that knee, like you said, it probably does limit his rushing production and his overall floor probably comes down. So he might need to hopefully salvage that with some passing in their upcoming games. But that's pretty much it for the injuries. Hopefully tomorrow night, on tomorrow night's show, we don't have too much more to cover because injuries, that's just one thing that we absolutely hate to see. I still can't get over Joe Burrow in week 2. Just absolutely gone for the year, man. That's just nuked so many things. But yeah, hopefully week 3 is better. But we'll close out week 2 with a little rewind on the final 2 games. So the first game we had this morning, Mav, was a bit of a nail biter. Came down to a Baker Mayfield game-winning drive. The Tampa Bay Buccaneers won 20-19 against the Houston Texans. Looking at it here, I mean, Baker just keeps providing the goods. I think just that breath of fresh air, going to an organization that has their head on straight, plenty of weapons, good offensive line. He just looks like a stud. I mean, for him to come back at the back end of this game when they were behind on that final drive, I think there was like a 4th and 10 or 4th and 11 yard play, and he just took it himself and he scrambled and he picked up the first down, which led to that game-winning touchdown. So I think Baker's just an absolute stud. Bucky Irving, he did see a bit more of a split with Rashad White. Bucky had 17 carries to Rashad White's 10, and White snagged the touchdown at the end there. But Bucky Irving in the receiving game, 6 for 50. Absolutely love to see it. Mike Evans, bit of an average game, 5 for 56. Emeka Egbuka, rookie sensation. He just keeps producing. I mean, his production was definitely salvaged by the touchdown, 4 for 29 and 1, but he did see 7 targets on the day as well, which is definitely what we love to see out of this wide receiver room. But looking at you, Mav, with the Bucks, any key takeaways on this performance before we look at the Texans?
Look, it was pretty balanced for the most part across the board, really, wasn't it? There wasn't really a performer out there that came out and really lit it up. Obviously Mike Evans is probably the best option out there for pass catches, and then obviously Bucky and Rashad sort of they were probably just equally as good as each other, to be honest with you, for the most part. Obviously Rashad getting that 2-yard touchdown to win the game will boost his numbers up a little bit more, but all in all, it was pretty balanced. Chris Godwin, I believe, is due back, and probably nearly as close as next week. So that's going to be one to watch on Ibuka and on Mike Evans to see what he can achieve in this offense. It's going to hurt somebody. I mean, it could even hurt Chris Godwin himself. But it's to me a loaded offense with Godwin in there. So if you're a Baker Mayfield owner, you'd love that because the ball's going to be spread around, you'd imagine, and he should be able to eat from it. But all in all, I think it's going to be a pretty balanced offense for the most part. There's not going to be really a number one option. Mike Evans probably is, but again, he's getting on in age himself. So he's not looking like the true Mike Evans that we know of the last sort of, what is it, 8, 9, 10, 11 years, whatever it's been. So, yeah, outside of that, it's going to be a fun offense and quite a balanced attack, I reckon.
Hopefully expecting some more Mike Evans touchdowns in the near future. He's been that's what he's known for, double-digit touchdown guy, and hasn't seen a sniff of the end zone so far this year. So hopefully that turns around. And he did have 11 targets on in this game too. So he topped the game in targets, but he only converted on 5. So Baker Mayfield, another sneaky thing, 3 for 33 carries for 33 rushing yards as well. So always good to see that rushing floor coming through. He definitely added that in last year, which was a bit sneaky as well. So definitely one to watch out for. But looking at the Texans, oh man, the Texans were gross. CJ Stroud, 13 for 24, threw for over 200, 1 touchdown, took 3 sacks. The running game, Nick Chubb, 12 for 43 and a touchdown. CJ Stroud added 27 yards on 4 carries. Woody Marks, the rookie, got a little sniff with 3 touches, but not many yards out of it. And in the receiving room, I mean, things you absolutely hate to see. The top receiver is Nico Collins, but he's had 3 receptions, 9 targets for 52 yards and a touchdown. That touchdown, if he did not get that, we would have been talking about him a lot in Supercoach tomorrow, I think, as a trade out. We might even still will be, honestly. But besides that, I mean, Woody Marks, second highest receiving player in the team, 1 for 37, and then Nick Chubb, 2 for 29. Xavier Hutchinson, 2 for 29. Dalton Schultz, 3 for 29. Jaden Higgins, the rookie, 1 for 28. One thing I'll start off with, Mav, on this while I'm on it, the rookies, Jaden Higgins and Jalen Noel. Jalen Noel, I don't even think we saw him on offense there. I think he returned a kick. Jaden Higgins barely getting a look, but he had one grab for 28 yards. Do you see this kind of playing out better? I mean, looking at it now, the Texans offense is just so sad. I think they probably need to get those rookies a bit more involved. But what do you kind of think as we look forward to week 3?
They just need a guy who can actually separate too. I mean, they are missing Christian Kirk as well, who may be back in week 3. We're not too certain what his status might be at this point. But they desperately need someone who can sort of separate and sort of get out of the slot, I suppose, because that's what they need, a short sort of intermediate route runner. And Christian Kirk will be able to provide that when he is healthy. If he is healthy is more the question, I suppose. But again, like CJ Stroud's not really too enticing at this point in anything. Nick Chubb's numbers today were very inflated. If he didn't get that 29-yard rushing touchdown in the last quarter, he would have had a game of probably less than 25 yards in the game, you'd imagine. So he's also looking like at one point during the game he's looking like a drop candidate. So he was lucky that he found the end zone in the end. But outside of that, I mean, they had 4 opportunities, I think, in the last quarter to score a touchdown, and they couldn't do it on the 1-yard line. That was gross too. So this offense is really struggling. The offensive line's struggling too. Not really able to hold and give CJ Stroud some time, which obviously has always been a problem for the last sort of 12 months for the Texans, and becoming a problem again. But they've got a lot of holes at the moment, the Texans offense, and they nearly won the game despite having these holes. So let's hope that Stroud can sort of sort it out over the next week or two, because again, he's looking like he could be in massive trouble if he keeps continuing the way he's going in his career.
Yeah, it's a disgusting team outlook for fantasy. They've got a great defense, and the offense is just not doing anything. 13 completions for CJ Stroud. That is, we cannot do absolutely anything with that for fantasy production. It's gross, but they've got Jacksonville next week, so hopefully better days ahead, and also Tennessee the week after. So definitely 2 defenses that can be exploited, but we'll wait and see.
I think the Bucs can be exploited too.
Yeah, exactly. I thought it might have been a little bit more of a shootout, but they just didn't really need to go down that far with how little the Texans were putting up on their end. But all in all, a bit of a gross game. Nico Collins salvage with a touchdown, and then Bucky Irving, Rashad White, Baker Mayfield on the other side. Everybody else was definitely disappointing. We'll head off to the last game in week 2 before we jump into some waivers. The Chargers beating the Raiders. Chargers, they're 2-0 in the division. Very big start for those guys. Justin Herbert, he's just looking so good. I mean, he didn't really need to throw too much. 27 attempts for 19 completions, but 242 yards, 2 touchdowns, 0 interceptions, which led to Quentin Johnston. Now, this one, I will ask you, Matt. Quentin Johnston, he led the receiving with 3 for 71 and a touchdown. I don't really want to say it, but is Quentin Johnston, is he a real thing this year? There's been back-to-back games. He looks like the main red zone opportunity. He gets big plays. He had a 60-yard catch in this game. How are you feeling about QJ?
I actually think Ken Allen's number one option in this offense, to be honest. Probably getting the most look-ins, I suppose, numbers-wise, and obviously production too. So I actually think, Ken might be the guy. Now, look, close watch on Lad McConkey as well. Volume-wise, it hasn't been there for him to start off 2025. Keep in mind, they have been cruising for the most part. But again, you want McConkey to be involved in the early scores instead of not needed to be featured is probably the concern. So I'm not too worried just yet about Lad McConkey. He'll have his weeks. But but again, it is something closely to monitor over the next, let's say, 2 to 3 weeks. Because if QJ and Keenan are the ones, then Ladd as a number 3 option, we drafted him as a number 1 option for this team. So that's what we want to get out of him, his number 1 option and number 1 output to go with it. So Matt Hampton as well is a bit of a concern. 3 yards per carry in this game, 8 yards, 8 carries for 24 yards, no rushing touchdowns at all. He's becoming a bit of a concern early on. Only 2 weeks, so just be a bit cautious. We're not giving up on him yet, but again, it's not really good signs, especially when you got Najee Harris in the house just behind you, who again was pretty much neck and neck with him today. So they didn't do a hell of a lot as a duo, but at any point they can just insert Najee Harris in, and he could take the workload quite easily and run with it. No pun intended. But he has the ability to own the offense if needed. But pretty gross running back room in this game as well.
Yeah, Hampton, that this one hurts. Back-to-back weeks of not doing too much. Najee Harris getting more involved. He did have more opportunities, only by 1, but he did see a couple of nice receptions for 20 yards in the receiving game. But Hampton, he had a fumble at the back end of the game when the Raiders were trying to make a comeback. Luckily enough, the Chargers got the ball back straight out after a 4-and-out from the Raiders, so it didn't really affect too much, but still, you hate seeing a fumble. The coaches hate to see it as well. They start to lose a little bit of trust. And now that Najee looks healthy, that swing might start to shift. So hopefully they do have Denver next week. So all across the board, the running game and also the receiving game might take a bit of a hit. We do know how good that defense is. But then again, they couldn't really stop Danny Dimes and the Colts last week. So a little up in the air. It is a divisional game. It might be a little bit more nitty gritty like we saw in that Chiefs opener. But over on the Raiders side, Mav, don't really need to spend too much time on this. Everybody was pretty gross. Starting from the helm, Geno Smith, 3 interceptions, no touchdowns, and 180 yards. Just absolute stinker. In one of my leagues, I think I needed 10 to win from Geno. He scored 3. So that was just that was perfect. And also the running back room, another gross outing. Ashton Genty led it with 11 for 43. He saw 3 receptions for 1 yard. He's still the main guy there by the looks, but this running game just hasn't really looked like anything of worthy note over the first couple of weeks. How are you feeling about Genty in this Raiders offense as a whole?
Yeah, again, I think he's the second worst player in the competition at the moment. Only 2 weeks, but in terms of efficiency, he actually started the game with a 13-yard carry in this one, and I was thinking, oh yeah, not bad. Let's get him going. And then somehow went backwards. The next 3 or 4 plays after that was just backwards. So, it's a concern. I don't mind Ashton Genty. It could be a good buy low option at this point for any managers who sort of might be losing a bit of faith in him. Again, we're drafting him. We drafted him at his ceiling at the start of the year, so he's going top end of the second round for a guy who hadn't actually played a snap. So we were taking him at his ceiling, but he has the ability to do that as well. So maybe he just needs one game to really sort of break the shackles off, and then he might not look back. I don't know who they play next week, but I'm going to check that out right now.
Yeah, they've got Washington, Chicago, then Indy.
All right, so he's got an opportunity next week against Washington. Their front four was actually not too bad at Washington, but there's still an opportunity there to get some momentum going into 2025 and stay his career off with a good game. I hope he's not going to be touchdown dependent, and that's what his score is going to be based off. But again, let's give him a chance. I'll give Hendon a chance as well, and let's give him another couple of weeks before we make decisions on what we want to do with these guys for the rest of the year.
Yeah, we have to tread with a little bit more caution when it comes to rookies, even though, this rookie running back classes look so good at the gate. We were just expecting them just to be hits from week 1, but rookies, they tend to take a little bit longer to get adjusted to the NFL. So yeah, we definitely want to keep an eye out. We're definitely not dropping these guys, especially considering the cost that you would have drafted them in your drafts this year. But yeah, definitely not what we were hoping for to start out the year. In the Vegas receiving game, Jacoby Myers, he just looks as sturdy as ever. He's very safe floor, 6 for 68. He saw 12 targets as well. I'll have to go back and rewatch this game and just see the Geno targets as well and see if they were even catchable, because very good chance that they probably weren't with the 3 interceptions and a poor outing from him. Brock Bowers, 5 for 38 with 8 targets. Not what we wanted to see. I kind of expected maybe a little bit of a dip just with that knee injury. Mightn't have been as hot to go as we would have liked. But besides that, Dante Thornton, 1 for 20, 4th-round rookie pick. Ashton Genty, like I mentioned, 3 receptions for 1 yard. And then that's pretty much it for the Las Vegas receiving. Final thoughts from you, Mav, on this receiving call before we look into the waiver wire for week 3?
Nah, not much really. Brock Bowers was playing on one leg, so despite him putting up that stat line, it's not too bad. And then Jacoby Myers looks like he's fine. Looks like he's got a solid role in his offense. But yeah, I mean, pass catching wise, I mean, I still am a bit concerned that Jake Besh can't get going. He had a catch last week, but he's probably one guy that I'd want to see a bit more action out of. And they're playing more Deontay Thornton, who hasn't really produced yet. So, disappointing. And this is a team who's crying out for pass catchers, to be fair. Jacoby Myers is probably the only one with Brock Bowers at this point that's reliable. Outside of that, then there's no one else. So, yeah.
See how we go in week 3. And just before we get into waiver wire, Graham in the chat, thanks for sending that through. We will get to questions at the end of the waiver wire segment and whatnot, so make sure you stick around for that. But waiver wire for week 3, Mav. Week 2 is behind us. Let's get locked in. Let's jump over to the waiver wire. Awesome. So with waiver wire for week 3, we'll be going through each position. For the quarterbacks, we'll cover 1 quarterback plus super flex as well in those deeper leagues if you need to scrounge together some options. With quarterback, we mentioned the top of the show and last night's show, Joe Burrow is out for the year, we expect. So that opens the door for Jake Browning. Now, he's currently at 0% rostered. That is before the waivers have taken place tomorrow. So I definitely expect that to jump up a whole heap. Jake Browning, Mav, are you looking to target him in probably, I guess we'll probably just start with Superflex because I mean 1 quarterback, if you're looking at Jake Browning or any of these other guys, you're probably in a lot of strife. So in terms of Superflex, Jake Browning, is he someone that you're looking to target if you are thin at the quarterback position?
Well, yeah, you would be. If you're a Joe Burrow owner, absolutely. And in one of the leagues I am. So, you have to find a replacement. If that's through trade or if that's through the waivers, you have to find somebody to fill the reins of Joe Burrow. And again, it's going to be hard to find someone of that caliber. But again, if you want someone in that offense, and he's probably the guy. Hey, I think he had 19 points on the weekend in 2.5 quarters, I think it was. He had a rushing touchdown on the 1 yard line, so that will inflate his score a little bit. But all in all, it was. He did throw 3 interceptions, so he cleans that up a little bit. He might be okay, but he would be a top priority add if you are QB needy in waivers this week for sure. Look, I'd be looking at offloading, 25% or at least if you're QB needy. You have to. There is a few other options on the wire. Again, I don't think it's on our sheet, but Matt Jones is actually an option too. Again, he's only really a short-term rental, though. I think he might be playing for the next sort of 2-3 weeks, give or take. But again, I think he scored 22 points, 23 points to go with it, so he could be a priority add because he looks like he could be a starter. He's actually been really, really solid in his last sort of 10 starts ever since he played for Jacksonville last year. He's been really good. So he could be a priority at some point for somebody, or even a trade candidate for the Bengals. Seriously.
Yeah, I think I'd rather Mac Jones than Jake Browning at the Bengals. I think he definitely could perform better. But Jake Browning, going back to him before we get to the next guy, just given their offense as a whole, they just have too many pieces for him to not kind of do anything for fantasy production. In 2023, when Joe Burrow is out, he filled in for 6 or so games, and he put up a couple of 20-point scores, a couple of 15, so serviceable scores there at least. But yeah, I mean, if you do have Joe Burrow and you are itching for quarterbacks and there's only Jake Browning there, I think I'd probably drop, up to 50%. It is gross, but without Joe Burrow and without any other quarterbacks in reach, it's just something that you might have to get done. But other potential candidates, Carson Wentz, we mentioned, he looks to be filling in for the next 3 or so weeks with the Vikings. Again, very friendly system that they have there at Minnesota. We saw what it did for Sam Darnold last year. Just really brought him back to life. But Carson Wentz, 0% rostered, the same thing. Waivers haven't run yet, but he'll definitely be a pickup as we head into week 3. How are you feeling about Carson Wentz, Mav? And in terms of percentage-wise, like percentage of your fab in Superflex leagues, if you are chasing that quarterback, how much are you looking to drop?
He hasn't really got much like rest of season value, so definitely would be prioritizing Browning over him at this point. I'd be prioritizing Mac Jones over him at this point. And that's probably about it. I'd be probably chucking no more than 5 to 10% on that. It would be a really desperate throw, might I add, for a guy who's a 2-3 week rental. So yeah, he's probably the guy. We had better options if you're QB needy, like Danny Dimes. If he should be on the roster if at that point in time you were QB needy. Again, we're not sure based off injuries. Things change rapidly in the game, but yeah, I do think that Wentz would be a desperate throw and probably not required if unless desperate, very desperate.
Yeah, and speaking of desperate, our last in the one quarterback that we did have here, Russell Wilson, he is rostered at 13%. Oh, sorry, in Superflex leagues, 13% rostered. So he could be a good option out there. But I mean, I think you're just kind of chasing last week's points with Russell Wilson. Very favorable game script in a shootout against the Cowboys. His moon balls from week 1 didn't look like anything special, but a lot of them cashed in, which led to all this production with him. I think he had 450 yards passing on the week and like 3 touchdowns as well. So we definitely can't expect that to go again. I also think Jackson Dart probably gets a run in over the next few weeks. Mav, Russell Wilson, are you touching him at all with a 10-foot pole, or are you steering clear and trending towards the other options?
Depends if he's available on your rosters. If he is, maybe. Again, probably matchup wise, he's not too bad. He looked really good actually against Dallas, but against the Cowboys defense, who have got no one there of value really. It was probably always going to happen, but look, I probably would. Again, I wouldn't break the bank for him, but again, it comes down to if you QB not. It's not really like a cream ad, like you just pick him up just because you can. I'd be looking at target somewhere else if I had that ability. It really only required if you're desperate and need a QB option. But I wouldn't be going too hard. I'd probably go harder at Browning than I would at Russell Wilson. To be honest with you, if I had to prioritize. But again, Wilson plays with neighbors, so he's tied to a really solid offensive weapon there, which is always a good thing too. So he should be number 2 on the priority ad compared to Browning, who's got rest of season value, because Dart could come in at any point. He came in for 3 or 4 snaps in the game on the weekend, and at any point they could just bench Russ and launch with Dart. So, and I expect that to probably be the next sort of month anyway.
And man, before we jump over to running backs, just in one QB formats, I will just throw a couple of names at you. Let me know what you think. Best to worst. This is based off roster percentages from 34% or under. Aaron Rodgers, Bryce Young, Tua Tagovailoa in one quarterback. What's your kind of ladder positioning out of those 3?
Who was it? Bryce, Tua, and
Aaron Rodgers.
Aaron Rodgers. It would be Bryce, Tua, Rodgers in that order would be the way I'd be going with it. Look, Tua's not completely broken. He was okay, I thought, on the weekend. Again, some ugly sort of play for the most part, but for actual fantasy scoring, he hasn't been too bad. But yeah, Bryce will be number 1 because you'd expect them to be playing from behind a lot this year as well. And he's been looking like he's okay when near the trail, and and put points on the board. So he looks like he's a not a bad option if we had to compare those other two guys to him. So Aaron Rodgers, like, zero interest, to be honest.
Yeah, I'm the same with you, Mav. It's definitely Bryce Young or Tua out of the top two for me. Bryce Young definitely getting the edge. Adds a little bit of rushing as well, which we like to see. But the running back room, so this covers in all leagues. I will bring up this name quickly. He is 60% rostered, so probably not too much available out in your leagues. But Ramondre Stevenson, absolutely gross what he did to our guy Travion Henderson this week. He just saw so many opportunities, and he looked good with them as well, which also sucks. He hasn't fumbled anything. Ramondre Stevenson, if he's out there in your league, are you picking him up, or are you still thinking that Trey will take over at some point?
Yeah, look, he has some value. If running backs always have values on rosters. We have premium handcuffs that are still on rosters as well, like Trey Benson and stuff like that. They're on rosters, so Ramondre should be rostered too, based off obviously opportunity alone. We expect Travion Henderson to fully take over at some point. When that time will be, we're not sure, but definitely Ramondre should be rostered and held on benches just in case injury does happen to Travion, and Ramondre's the guy. Suddenly you'll see 15 plus carries a game, and he'll be okay, and could be flex level worthy at that point. So definitely should be rostered.
And the next guy that we have, he is a cover photo tonight. I don't think a lot of people would have realized who it was, but Bashal Tootin, running back for the Jacksonville Jaguars, he is 45% rostered. I do expect that to go up because he saw 10 opportunities against the Bengals, and he looked pretty good. 8 for 42 on the ground, 2 for 32 in the air, and he also got that touchdown as well, which inflated his stats. But it still looks like Travis Etienne is that clear guy. But looking at contingent upside, if Etienne does go down by any chance, I mean, Tootin is going to be far and away the best option that they have, or really the only option. But even with Etienne still there, we might see a little bit more of Tootin mixed in, like we did see over the weekend. But how are you looking at Tootin moving forward, Mav?
He's just he's a premium handcuff. He is. It looks good when given the opportunity, but so does Etienne. It looks like he's winding back the clock down back from 2023, where he finished as a top 5 RB that year. Not saying he's going to finish top 5 this year, but he's looking like he's at least going to be an RB1 worthy player with the amount of work that he's getting and the amount of productiveness is going with it too. So, really, really good. But Tootin definitely should be waived. Should be rostered. Sorry. If you don't have him and you're an Eddie, no, you should hold the handcuff too, because that is premium.
Yep, well worth it for sure. And Blake Corum, I will just throw this up. He's at 14%. He did see a little bit more work with the Rams and behind Kyron Williams. He also vultured the touchdown as well, which we hate to see. But he looked pretty good, 5 for 44 on the ground. Didn't see anything in the receiving game, but he did get that touchdown. And Sean McVay came out and said that they'll probably keep it around this line. He might get 5 to 7 opportunities a game. He's still definitely second fiddle to Kyron, but I feel like it's the same situation like you just mentioned with the Jags. If Kyron goes down, Blake Corum is going to see everything. So I think he's valuable to have there as a handcuff.
Absolutely. Yep. He's going to be a bit annoying this year, I think, Corum, in terms of in terms of vulturing touchdowns at times, but I suppose that's the game, isn't it? That's the landscape of the business. Should he be rostered? Probably. If you're a Kyron owner, definitely. I mean, I'm probably not going out and getting Corum off the waivers, to be honest. I don't own Kyron in many situations, so I'm probably not going to go and get him. I like some other options out there instead. But yeah, Corum is a bit cheeky. I'd actually prefer Tootin over Corum if I had to prioritize.
Yeah, no, I'm with you there. And our final running back pairing, they are on the same team. Washington Commanders running back duo, Chris Rodriguez and Jeremy McNichols. So following that Austin Eckler Achilles, so he's absolutely gone. It's Bill Krosky-Merritt, and it's these two gents behind him. Chris Rodriguez, 8% roster own. Jeremy McNichols is at a big donut as of yet, but I expect that to move up. Out of these two, I mean, as I kind of see it, I think McNichols probably takes that pass catching role more so over anybody on this roster. So I'm probably leaning more towards him, just as I think that role will probably be a little bit more stable. How are you feeling about these two for the Commanders?
Yeah, I agree with McNichol's statement. I think he's probably going to be the one to add out of the two. I'm interested to see how this backfield looks like now. Is it going to be Bill getting the majority of the carries? Is it McNichols going to be pinch hitting as well? Is Debo going to be more involved in maybe seeing 5 to 7 carries a game? Possible. I'd be shocked if Bill gets all the work. I don't think he's got 3 down back potential personally. But hey, he'll probably see 10 to 15 carries in every game now, you'd imagine, and should be fine. But yeah, it's gonna be interesting. I would prefer McNichols if I'm prioritizing anyone though. Rodriguez was rumored to be the goal line back in 2025. That could also be the case too. He could also get some value back if he is the goal line back, but that's one to monitor.
Yeah, for sure. And jumping over to wide receivers, probably a little bit more that we can talk about here. We'll start off with my guy. I think he's probably the number one target I have in wide receiver if I am looking in this position. Alec Ayomana, wide receiver for the Tennessee Titans. He's seen more targets than Calvin Ridley over the last couple of weeks. This week against the Rams, he put up 4 for 56 and a touchdown on 6 targets. He's looking pretty good out there. They want to get him involved. He's that rookie, so maybe there's that rookie-on-rookie connection with Cam Ward. How are you feeling about Alec Ayomana in the Titans receiving room?
Definitely would be my number one ad for the week if I had to pick a receiver or anyone, to be honest. He looks like he's got some rest of season standalone value. Looks like he's involved in the offense. Looks like he gets plenty of targets. It looks like a big, solid receiver too, big boy. So yeah, Ridley looks pretty cooked. Haven't been big on Ridley for years, ever since that betting scandal, really, and hasn't hurt me yet to this point. So yeah, I've been riding that wave. Everyone's been big on him, and I'm like, oh, not really, but I've got a lot wrong along the way as well. But no, not big on Ridley. So Ayomana would be a nice little option for a bench with plenty of upside.
Yeah, for sure. And we can expect a lot more with him being a rookie, as we mentioned. Takes a little bit longer. Yeah, he could definitely see a nice increase. I'll throw these two guys at you quickly, Mav, and then I just want to touch on a receiving room for one team. Troy Franklin, Wan'Dale Robinson, both under 27% ownership. Troy Franklin, are you buying into the hype from that 1 week? I mean, it's really only last year didn't really show us anything. This has been the only thing he's really shown us in his career so far. What are you kind of thinking when it comes to Troy Franklin?
Well, he's really fighting for the number 2 spot at Denver at the moment, isn't he? We're well aware that Sutton's the number 1 option in the room. They got Marvin Mims, they've got Troy Franklin, they got Pat Bryant. They've got a few options there they can put through. But these guys are fighting for the number 2. I actually probably like Troy Franklin the most, upside wise, if I'm comparing him to Marvin Mims. I think Marvin Mims is probably a bit more special in the special teams. But yeah, I think Troy Franklin's got some ability and plenty of upside. So he'd be one to hold or one to stash if you've got the room. You're not going to drop someone that you're going to regret to pick him up. But if you've got room to bring him in, he's definitely one to hold on the bench to see if he can sort of carry any momentum from week 3 onwards, because I actually don't mind him. I think he's a good player.
Yeah, he looks all right. And it could be a little bit of due to Evan Ingram. He was dealing with that calf injury during the game, so he probably definitely saw more of an uptick in production from that standpoint. But he looks good with it. 42-yard bomb. Wan'Dale Robinson from the New York Giants, Mav, he had his biggest game of his career by an absolute landslide. 140-plus yards, got a touchdown. Are you is it worth throwing anything at Wan'Dale Robinson? I know half PPR I'm probably less keen on, but in full PPR leagues, if I am struggling, I'd probably be willing to throw about 8% on Wan'Dale because he is definitely that number 2 target behind Neighbors for the Giants.
Yeah, he has been last year too, to be fair. He's just very up and down. He'll have a week where he goes bonkers, and then next week you won't see him. He has a really good Houdini act. He should be a bit of a magician at times, Wondell, because he can suit that quite well. But nah, I wouldn't. I don't have much interest in Wondell, to be honest with you.
And before we get to tight ends, Mav, looking at the Jaden Reed injury, I'm trying to think of opportunities to target Romeo Dobbs, Dontavian Wicks. Those guys are definitely going to be available in a lot of leagues out there. Dobbs is at 24%, and I think Wicks is in the single digits. Out of these two, are you looking to try and target these two players with Reed out, or you're just not interested?
Nah, not interested personally. I've seen too much of a sample size of these guys to say that these guys aren't it. I mean, if you need one, Dobbs is probably the option, probably the most consistent option. Probably will get the most targets without Christian Watson and Jaden Reed, to be fair. So if we had to pick, that would be the case. But no, there's no way you can insert Dobbs into a starting lineup. He's a depth piece at most.
Yeah, it's really looking like Josh Jacobs and Tucker Kraft will be the offense this year for the Packers, and through 2 weeks, that's all they've needed. But jumping into tight ends, now this one is a little bit gross. You might have already missed the boat on the top two. Juwan Johnson, he's at 51%, and Harold Fannin, he's at 66%. If you are struggling for tight ends, these are definitely the top two targets in your leagues. By a landslide, I don't think we need to spend too much time on that. But the other deeper options, if you missed out on those guys and you need to find some points, Michael Mayer, he's at 21% with a Brock Bowers injury. He's still, I think he put up like one catch and like 10 yards or something. So I'm not kind of buying into that, especially with Brock Bowers there. But Jatavian Sanders for the Carolina Panthers and also Theo Johnson for the New York Giants, they saw a big uptick in production this week. Theo Johnson, before I throw it to you, Mav, what did he put up? He put up 4 for 34. Yeah, so better than what he put up last week. But JT Sanders, he saw a lot of targets in that Carolina game, probably due to them being game scripted out and having to come back in. But JT Sanders, 7 for 54 on 9 targets. So second receiving option for the week behind Tet for the Panthers. But out of these kind of two, who would you look towards picking up if you needed tight end help?
Definitely Sanders. Definitely Sanders. If you had to pick. But again, I mean, yeah, if you had to pick it, definitely Sanders. I don't mind Sanders. He's young. He's 22 years old. He's the starter. There's probably no real competition for his position at this point. So he's it. But again, very young tight end that still is learning along the way. So again, we expect the Panthers to be behind a lot. So it should be a very pass-heavy offense in the second half of the game. And that's probably where Tavion probably comes into play with opportunity. So again, would be a desperate ad if you needed to. But again, tight end positions are very desperate themselves. It's very very hard to find a good one. We've seen Mark Andrews, we've seen Engram at this point. They've all been pretty bus-worthy at this point in time. So I would be looking towards Tavion if necessary.
And if you did have an opportunity, Mav, to pick up either the top two in Juwan Johnson or Harold Fannin, what kind of percent on your waiver would you be looking to unload to pick up these guys?
If you're desperate, I'd be going pretty hard. I would be. Both have stable jobs at the moment. Same as Zach Ertz, if we can chuck him in there as well. Zach Ertz would actually probably be number one on my book personally. But yeah, all three options are pretty solid. But yeah, if you're desperate, I'd rather go trade for one. Who if Jake Ferguson, for example, is on a bench, I'd be looking at trying to get him. But again, you have to cycle rosters and see what's available. You can try and buy low on Hawkinson at this point. See if you can get him cheap because he's worth very little at the moment, and could be better than spending fab. You might actually get him. You actually could get him in the waiver wire once he's been dropped. So again, just watch the waiver wire and who gets dropped this week because there'll be a few unhappy managers and impatient managers, shall I say, going to be scrambling.
for sure. And that closes us there with the waiver wire for week 3 with the top targets. But before we get into some question, Mav, just real quick with some drop candidates. I've seen these questions come out quite a bit this week. Jaden Reed out to 6 to 8 weeks in a shallow league. Are you dropping him straight up? Hunter Henry, tight end for the Patriots.
Yeah.
And Luther Burden, Colson Loveland, the duo for Chicago Bears.
Wouldn't even blink twice. Yeah.
And Ollie Gordon for the Miami Dolphins. I think that's a no-brainer as well. So, yeah, if you've got those guys and you're tossing and turning on which ones to keep, none of them is the answer. Drop all those guys. Jaden Reed, if there is an IR spot on your league, definitely throw him on there. But if you are struggling, 8 weeks, it's not only the injury has to come back with, but it's too many targets to feed in that receiving room. So it's probably not going to look too good anyway for fantasy moving forward. But we'll jump into some questions here before we sign out. We've got a couple. Before I do jump into that, I will just throw this up. If you are watching on YouTube, please like and subscribe. We absolutely love it. It gets Mav all hot and bothered for a nice like and subscribe, and it helps us get out to the world more for like-minded fantasy lovers as well, especially in the Australian community. So make sure to jump and do that if you are watching on YouTube. But going back, we do have a couple of questions here, and we'll filter through this, Mav. Starting with Graham Fisher. Thanks for waiting around, Graham, if you are there. I think this is a super coach one here. I have Josh Allen, Jalen Hurts, and JJ McCarthy as quarterbacks, looking to bring in Lamar Jackson for decent captain scores, but Allen and Lamar have same bye. Would you do it? So, yeah, what are you thinking there, Mav?
No, because you'd have to start someone in your flex. You would like roster in terms of your roster. You wouldn't be able to do it because you're holding 3 QBs, so you can't really move anyone else around. So you'd have JJ starting at some point, and then you'd have those two holding your buys. So definitely not.
Yeah, I definitely wouldn't drop Josh Allen or go it to Lamar. It feels a little bit sideways. Yes, Allen was a bit of a letdown last week, but his ceiling is probably higher than Lamar on a week-to-week basis, and it's not always going to be game scripted where Cook gets all those rushing touchdowns and takes it away from Allen. So, yeah, wouldn't look to make that move. We've got PSAB here. As a Jamar Chase owner, should we be worried with Burrow out? We did touch on this. Jamar Chase is probably still the safest option from the Bengals given this news. After Burrow went out, I think Chase added still an extra five receptions and another 50 or 60 yards with Jake Browning. Browning, he's just going to hyper target Jamar Chase. So his ceiling definitely isn't wide receiver 1 overall without Burrow, but he's probably still within that top 7. I think. What are you kind of thinking about Jamar Chase, Mav?
Be cautious. Be very cautious is probably what I'd say. I don't think he warrants a trade out at this point. I wouldn't be looking to move him on just yet. There's probably worse options out there at the moment that we need to address before we even look at Jamar Chase. But again, I'd want to see a full game first with Browning in under center to see how we go. We did see it. When was it? Was it last year, year before?
Yeah, 2023.
Yeah, and that was okay. Browning was actually okay. Yeah, he was actually able to support him a little bit, so it wasn't awful. But yeah, just closely monitor that one, see how he goes. I'd probably give it 2 weeks max before I'd react.
And a nice little segue. Who could be the best replacement for Joe Burrow? At the moment, I've got Mahomes because I was actually going to before the season. That's from Dodgy Malacca. Thanks for sending that through. I take it this is probably from a super coach lens, Mav. This is probably what I'm looking at this as. A good replacement for Joe Burrow. I think he was around that 25 mil mark. So you will have a bit of
straight off that. Drake May.
There you go. Bang. And you'll save some cash. You'll probably save about 6 mil.
Yeah, Drake May's got a lower break even too, so he's going to make some cash. So unless you've got money to actually upgrade, downgrading him to Drake May actually wouldn't be an awful decision.
Yeah, I think that's probably the area I'd look to go in as well. And coming up a couple of big scores, yeah, like you said, break even is low. So it will be good to see how that looks. But yeah, Drake May, that's a nice, easy one. Peace up again. Is it time to get rid of Trav Hunter because he's playing a bit of defense? In Supercoach, if you do have him there, what are you looking to do, Mav? I know his break even was very low at the gate, but he hasn't produced anything. I'm not too sure if he's at the point at making money, but
you can't move him on to anyone else. There's no sideways trades that are better at this point. The only option really is Golden or AA Mana or anything like that. But all these guys got very similar break evens, so there's no upside in actually doing it. They're all pretty much generating the same amount of money at this point in time. So I would be holding. And again, yeah, sure, it sucks if he plays a bit more defense last week. He played a lot more snaps out of need more than anything else. But at the same time, it's not worth putting a trade over to do a sideways deal to get the same amount of money coming in anyway.
And Mav, before we get on to the next one, how worried are you about Trevor Lawrence? I mean, he looked gross 2 weeks in a row. Do you think that'll get better, or you think this is just who he is?
It's a reason why I own Cam Little, my friend. There's a reason why I own Cam Little. So yeah, I'm concerned about the whole offense. Brian Thomas scares the shit out of me at the moment too. So he's another concern. Obviously injured or banged up at this point too, but hasn't been playing well. A bit scared, to be honest. He's a bit of a scared player. Yeah, he's a massive concern, and so is Trevor Lawrence. So yeah, Etienne's probably the safe one.
Yeah. And M8 Punter, thanks for throwing this one in here. With 52, 53 break evens, who would you trade this week, Collins or London? I'll have a little dab at this first, Matt, before throwing to get your thoughts. Looking at it here and like looking at the offenses as a whole, I mean, it's really Collins for the Texans, and that's really it. They don't have anybody else in the receiving room. Their running game is gash. I'm probably more leaning towards Collins purely based on the amount of volume that he'll probably get, even though he only had like 3 receptions this week. I expect that to move up. But where are you between Collins and the London situation? There is 1.4 mil price difference. Drake London's 1.4 mil cheaper. With that in consideration, which way are you leaning?
I'd be more inclined to keep London personally. He at least gets a decent amount of targets coming his way. Yeah, obviously it's a bust week this week, but I'm not too concerned. He was playing through injury as well, so I'm less concerned with London than I am with Collins. The offense at Houston's just a rabble at the moment. I actually own both players in my Supercoach team, and they're both going to stay because I've got worse players out there like AJ Brown, who's a massive concern. But yeah, you probably have to roll with both of them unless you're in a luxury spot where you can actually move one of them on. But if you're choosing, it's definitely Collins and mine.
Hopefully better days ahead for the both of them. Our last question here before we sign out. The Smitty, thanks for throwing this in, mate. I'm in a 2 QB PPR flex league. I've lost Purdy as my second quarterback and have Rattler and Ward for my backups. Mac Jones and the RB Bill crossing merit on the wire. Who would you get? And he's mentioned here, I'm number 2 on the waiver, and my other starting QB is Jaden Daniels as well. So it's a waiver priority, so it looks like you can't drop too much fab. I think if you've already got Rattler and Ward, the difference between Mac Jones and those guys isn't too much. Brock Purdy is going to be back probably in 3 or 4 weeks. This is my kind of thought process. And then Mac Jones is going to be worth nothing. Spencer Rattler was a fine stream this week. I think he got 20 odd points. You could probably start either him or Ward in that second QB spot behind Jaden Daniels. We've already got that safe player there at the helm. What are you thinking on this one, Mav? Would you lean towards picking up more running backs, or yeah?
Don't need to burn it. I mean, if you had Joe Burrow, we'd be having a different conversation. But Purdy's only 2-3 weeks away, so you'd roll with what you've got at this point, and just hold your priority, just in case a premium running back goes down, and you can pick one up off the waivers, because that's larger than picking up a guy who's a 2-week rental. So yeah, play the matchups, watch Rattler and see who Ward's got this week, and then just choose who the better one you think is in the matchups, and and then in a couple of weeks you get Purdy back and you'll be fine.
Love it. That will do us here for tonight's final week 2 recap and waiver wire for week 3. Best of luck to everyone with waivers. They will be running tomorrow for most leagues, so hopefully you've got those claims in and you get lucky with that. Tomorrow night, we will be going back to the Supercoach realm of things, and it'll be a massive show, I think, with our trade-in and trade-outs as we look to get settled before the price rises kick in. So make sure you tune in tomorrow, 7:30 p.m. Supercoach Trade-In, Trade-Out show. And if you haven't seen already, our week 2 review from last night is also linked below. If you want to stay tuned with us all throughout the off-season, find us on socials. Everything is in the description below. You can find myself at Mullin_FF on Insta and X, and you can find Mav at IFS Maverick over on at the X Machine. That'll do us. Mav, pleasure as always, mate. We'll be back tomorrow to run through Supercoach. Hope to see everybody there.
See you.